I'm Beck and welcome to a video about Tessa Bailey. I am going to be talking about a few different companion series by this popular romance author and telling you whether I think her books are worth reading or not. I'm going to be talking about the Hot and Hammered series, the Bellinger Sister series, and a Vine Mess series. She's written a lot more than these, so feel free to branch out after this video, but these are the main ones I've touched on, so let's get into the synopses and then my rough thoughts about each one. First, in the Hot and Hammered series, we've got Fix You Up, which is a fake dating story, and that's about Georgie. Now, Georgie Castle's family run the best renovation business in town. They are very wealthy and very popular and renowned. But to deviate from the family business, which wasn't really her thing, she went into clowning instead, and as a result, because she's also the younger sibling of the Castle family, no one really takes her seriously. So essentially the title of the book is about her. She's trying to fix herself up so that she can start her own business, find some direction, and just hope she'll be taken seriously when she starts to get her life together. She also thinks that her brand as the little sister won't be relevant anymore if she is undertaking a steamy love affair. Who better, of course, to improve her image than Travis Ford, who is a Major League Baseball player. However, he is not a baseball player anymore because he had an injury and everyone loves talking about his glory days. This is kind of a small town romance as well, and everyone seems to know everyone, and he's gone into renovating houses because of his injury. He can't really play baseball to the same degree that he could before. So to shock Georgie's family and elevate their reputations and also get Travis a new job, they start fake dating. They also have a history together, and because of that history, the relationship is quite quick to take off because they've got this shared knowledge of each other. So it was really nice to see a familiar and comfortable rapport with the characters before you launched into their immediate fake dating story. Even though they had this emotional history though and a lot of physical chemistry, they tended to self-sabotage a lot, like they weren't confident in each other and themselves. The second guessing felt like it was specifically in the story to drive the plot, so it was a little bit annoying to see it crop up all the time in the characters' heads. So if you're going to start this book, that's the grain of salt that I would make you aware of. But somehow it was addictive and I couldn't stop reading it. It did end what I felt a little bit abruptly, but there were a lot of discussions, character development, and steamy scenes on the way to the ending, and like I said, it was just addictive. I could not get enough of these characters, even though they annoyed me sometimes. So in terms of starting this series, I would say give it a try. Then we've got the second in that Hot and Hammered series, and it is Love Her or Lose Her, which is a second chance romance about a married couple. It follows Rosie and Dominic Vega, and they were the best friends and the high school sweethearts and the happily married couple, but that has kind of fizzled out now. Their communication has basically shut down. Rosie says that she is lucky to get like a caveman grunt out of Dominic, and he is an ex-soldier, so he's dealing with a lot of emotional baggage as well. Rosie also has this dream of opening her own restaurant, and apparently Dominic has secrets as well. And like I said, communication breakdown. They haven't spoken really. They do have a lot of physical chemistry, but just not a lot of communication and emotional chemistry. And so they decide to go to therapy to talk it all out. It was Rosie's idea, but Dominic surprises her by agreeing. And I'm like, I get why you want to save your relationship and your marriage and your main characters of a rom-com romance. So of course you're going to be the end game of the story. But to me, I have a huge hang up when it comes to miscommunication, and this book is set very solidly on those grounds. So I started it and just could not continue. I did not even get up to them going to therapy, and that is in the plot synopsis. So it's supposed to be very early on in the book, and I could not even get to that point because I was annoyed. So if you don't like miscommunication like me, I think this one probably not for you, but I read the first book and the third book in this series and I skipped the second. And with romance, that's pretty doable. So if you are like me, you probably won't like this one, but if you don't really care about miscommunication and you think that drives some intrigue, then go for it. And then, like I said, I finished the third book in this series called Tools of Engagement. And this follows Bethany Castle, who is the oldest Castle sibling. And she's very deeply involved in renovation and design of flipping houses. And she is also a perfectionist, and she's decided to go on a dating hiatus after a few mishaps. Despite her skills in the renovating area and the design area though, her brother always constantly dismisses her, and it's really grating on her. Enter the reality TV show called Flip Off. Bethany decides to go onto this reality TV show and renovate or flip a house while her brother is doing the same thing, to basically show that she is worth all of the credibility of the Castle family name. The only thing Bethany doesn't have is a crew, and she ends up recruiting Wes Daniels, who used to work for her brother but has jumped ship to work for her. He is the new guy in town, so he does not really have too many loyalties, so he jumps over and helps Bethany. He's got this Texan drawl and this charm, and he just easily gets on Bethany's nerves, and so you see these characters go from almost enemies to lovers across the story. I enjoyed this one more than the first book. Honestly, I really liked the banter between Wes and Bethany. It was ongoing and flirtatious, and it was trusting too. I liked that foundation of trust, which I didn't feel as strongly in the first book, but it really came through in this one. But personally, I just hate reality TV subplots to stories, so even though I enjoyed this one, I just did not like that aspect of it. If you don't mind reality TV in your books, I'm sure this would not be a problem for you, but I'm just really picky when it comes to romance, and it's why I don't really physically own many of these. I listen a lot to audiobooks that I borrow from my library, just in case, like Love Her or Lose Her, I don't love them. But I enjoyed this one, so I would say yes, give it a go. Then we jump into the Bellinger sisters duology, and the first one is It Happened One Summer, and this is a small town romance that is a grumpy to sunshine romance as well. So it's when one character is super bubbly and super happy, and then the love interest is usually really grumpy and doesn't give a lot to the person, but it turns out that that love interest who's very grumpy has a very soft gooey center and has like a heart of gold. So in this one we follow Piper Bellinger, and she's a bit of a wild child. She's also got a lot of wealth to her family, and because of this wealth she kind of runs amok and throws a party, and as a result of the party she's given the consequence by her father of, you're not allowed to party anymore, I'm taking a lot of your things away, you must go to this small town where we initially grew up and run my old dive bar. And so she's got to basically be uprooted from her wealthy party lifestyle and go and live in a down-to-earth small town where everyone knows each other. In this small town of Westport she meets Brendan. Now here is where the grumpy comes in. He is a fisherman and a sea captain, which is what Westport thrives on, the fishing culture, and he deeply doubts her ability to adjust to a small town after being in her glamorous lifestyle. Despite their differences though, Piper is determined to show Brendan that she can adjust to this small town lifestyle, and she starts to reconnect and rekindle her past in this small town. If you are anything like me, you loved the show Schitt's Creek. It's kind of a similar concept of all of the wealthy being sucked out of a family or a person and forcing them into a small town to integrate and share vulnerable and intimate connections with each other, when beforehand that didn't really exist. And I really got to see that in Piper's character growth. And I love the steaminess and the spicy scenes with Brendan as well. It was balanced enough between the sex scenes and also the character development and the plot. This is probably my favorite book of the Tessa Bailey books that I've read, just because I guess it felt like the Schitt's Creek vibes with the going to small town from wealth to rags. And I guess to me, who reads a lot of fantasy where there are lots of orphan chosen children that have to rise through the ranks and like rediscover their magic, I guess because those tropes really appeal to me, having the riches to rags here, it also just touched on what I end up enjoying as tropes regardless. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you like those things and you like a bubbly protagonist who is determined to do stuff and gets it wrong, and this grumpy guy who is just there to be her protector and her support as well, I would recommend this because it was a lot of fun, and like I said, it was my favorite Tessa Bailey. Then we've got the sequel Hook, Line and Sinker, which follows Hannah Bellinger, and she is Piper's younger sister, and she was in book 1, and so was the love interest Fox. He is also Brendan's best friend. Fox Thornton is the second to the sea fisherman captain, so both of them often go on the same ships out to sea and then come back together. In book 1, Hannah fobs him off and is kind of immune to his charm, and then in this book, Hook, Line and Sinker, she comes back to the town because she works in the movie and production industry, and they have come to film a movie on this small town set, and so she's living in town and she stays in Fox's spare room. Hannah has a crush on a work colleague, and Fox realizes that he is beginning to develop a crush on Hannah, and to throw in and say, look, I'm just a friend, I will support you, he ends up supporting her crush on this other person and tries to help Hannah with dating tips while keeping their friendship platonic. But given that this is a small town friends to lovers romance, we know that it doesn't stay platonic. There is a public incident at a party, and to save face, both of them say that they are dating when they are in fact not dating. So it is more fake dating, which is a personal trope that I just enjoy. Despite Fox's inner struggles with his reputation in this small town as being a ladies' man, he tries to navigate his feelings of falling for Hannah as she navigates her own feelings of falling for him in return. And I just love that coziness, the intimacy of sharing an apartment and trusting each other to be friends, but then having that crush on each other. It's just so wholesome and and cute. And while It Happened One Summer was my favourite Tessa Bailey, this was a very close second. This series was fantastic, so I would recommend it. And again, the banter was on point. Just the delight of reading these was top tier, so yes, would recommend. But then we land on a more recent duology by Tessa Bailey, and that is A Vine Mess. And the first book is called Secretly Yours, and it follows Hallie Welch, and she has this crush on Julian Voss after their almost kiss when she was 14 in the vineyards. But since then, obviously they have both grown up and gone their separate ways. He has become a professor and she has remained in this small town. She's an eccentric, she loves gardening, and she gets called to the Voss estate to redo and revamp their gardens. And while she's there, she runs into Julian, who is back for a temporary time period from being a professor to write a novel. And this one does capture those grumpy sunshine vibes, with Hallie being the sunshine and Julian being the grumpy professor. It is also a small town old childhood crush romance that has a friends to lovers in there too, because Julian gets a letter from a secret admirer and Hallie realizes that she wrote him a letter while she was drunk one day and didn't say who it was from. So she has to navigate her friendship with Julian while also knowing that he is really curious about this secret letter. And while he starts to form feelings for Hallie and her wholesome chaos, he's also curious about the letter as well, and she feels like it's such a secret that she's keeping from him. So naturally you're going to expect that this comes to a bit of a boiling point. And I just love their slow burning friendship to romance. Their connection was really cute and sweet. There was a little bit of that self-sabotage that was present in Fix You Up. It was present in this book as well, with Hallie just not telling Julian multiple times she had opportunities about the letter that she wrote. And I was like, come on guys, you're both adults, just say something. So again, that was a bit of the miscommunication shining through. So while it was enjoyable enough, it wasn't my favorite Tessa Bailey. And I'd say try it if you want to give it a go, if this sounds up your alley with the admirer letter and the friends to lovers and chaos and organized characters. But I don't know if I'd necessarily want to actively recommend this. See what you feel depending on what tropes you like. Then we've got Unfortunately Yours, and this book follows Julian's younger sister from book one. Her name is Natalie Voss, and she suggests a fake marriage with Augustus Cates because she needs access to her trust fund that her very bigoted traditional father has set up for her. And she's like, I need this fund to start a new business and fund my lifestyle because I've just come out of an ex-marriage and I've come back to my small town and my business is not doing great. So I need to access this trust fund to kind of get myself off the ground again. And he's running a small wine vineyard as well, but it's not doing so great. So he's like, well, if we access the trust fund, let's split it. And so they agree to a marriage of convenience. But of course, their undeniable attraction starts making things a little bit murky because they are living together and in the past they've had a bit of a fling. And so from hate to love, their feelings start to intensify, but they also kept secrets from each other, like quite significant secrets. So I didn't end up finishing this one personally. I just really hate that miscommunication trope and keeping information from someone to either protect them or because you just don't get the opportunity doesn't exist. Don't let the plot go on, let the characters have a conversation. So I would not recommend this sequel, but ultimately across all of the Tessa Bailey I read, in terms of being worth it, I would say that the Bellinger Sisters duology is the most worth it. I had the most fun with that one. If I had to rank them, I'd do the two Bellinger Sisters books very closely, one after the other, and then I would also say Hot and Hammered. So if you're going to take anything away from this video, those are my 3 recommendations for you. But let me know if you've read any other Tessa Bailey books because I know she's written a lot of different things. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll come chat to you down below and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.